Without further ado, we have another exciting speaker here today, Amanda Elder from Kempinski Hotels. Thank you very much for joining us. She'll be interviewed by Mathew Evins. Thank you. Right. Mathew, good to see you again.
Nice to see you. Amanda, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Matthew.
So, let me get right to it.
Sure.
At a time where the definition of luxury seems to be constantly changing, how do you define it, and how do you see that definition evolving in the foreseeable future?
Absolutely. Well, first I'll tell you a little bit about Kempinski, because I've met some fabulous people over this 24 hours, but not everybody has the immediate recognition. So, and I think it plays into the question. Essentially, Kempinski is a single luxury brand European hospitality company. We have 80 hotels globally, although nothing in the United States and nothing in Australia, and I only reference that so you know where I'm from. I was with Starwood for 24 years, and I can assure you, when I said to my family, I'm going to work for a beautiful company called Kempinski with head office in Geneva, Switzerland, they said, oh, darling, well, next time, next career, it'll be okay, you know. So I think Kempinski is very interesting with these 80 hotels around the world, Matthew, because people in a certain band have a immediate recognition, and then others simply have not heard of us. And when you talk luxury, are we talking discretion? Are we talking, and we like to say, small is beautiful. We are a humble company. We like to operate somewhat as a private bank. But then does that play well with the customer? Does that play well with the guest? So our perspective on luxury is ever evolving. And I think that's probably what we'll get into today. But, you know, we have 7 perspectives on luxury, and we are always discussing whether they need to evolve and change.
Now, one of the things that Kempinski talks about is sophistication and elegance.
Yes.
Do you see those as fundamental principles of luxury?
I do, and I think even sophistication means something very different from one particular guest to another. I was very interested to hear prior speakers talking about, you know, we expect that we know the guest. You are different people and different personas depending on why you're travelling. Sometimes you're that corporate warrior that really wants to get in and out and you still appreciate the finer things. Other times you're with your family and you want the pomp and ceremony. You want the red carpet rolled out. You want to feel very special and for your family to enjoy this. And I think the real nuance for luxury, and not just Kempinski, but for all of us in the space, is to understand that person's persona at that given time. And how do you do it? Because we are always talking about GDPR. I don't hear it so much in the US. I really hear it in Europe all the time. And as I said, head office Geneva. I live in Dubai, so we have another perspective altogether there. But to me, that's really where luxury stems from. How do we know who you are at that given time?
Well, that's the perfect question, which is the greatest aspect of luxury is anticipating what that guest wants.
Right.
How do you do that?
We have an incredible bunch of general managers. We have something called, and in America it sometimes gets a little laugh, ladies in red. But these are people who truly get to know our guests. We're still very personalised. We understand that in the digital world we need to capture, we need to reach, we need to invite the guest to make that reservation in those certain channels. But to really understand the preferences, we speak to our guests. We almost try to exit interview. We do it in a very careful way. We still practice that, what you might say, old, authentic style of hospitality about being in the lobby, engaging in conversation, hiring general managers who are more hosts than they are office-bound admin people. And we argue about this amongst the senior leadership because we say, well, we want that general manager who can talk very much the stats, speak in the boardroom and present. However, at the end of the day, if the guest doesn't feel the presence of a general manager, an entrepreneurial spirit, a hosting spirit, then we've lost our sense of luxury.
So one of the things that that's been mentioned at the conference is the journey.
Yes.
And let's assume I have not had the distinct pleasure of staying at a Kempinski property. From pre-arrival, from the time that I first contact the hotel to post-departure. How do you approach ensuring that that guest journey is memorable and personal?
Right. Well, firstly, and I wish I had a photograph, I should have done that, but we refer to the guest journey in Kempinski as a pearl necklace. Each pearl that makes up that magnificent necklace is individual, it's unique, but unless those pearls string together, the journey is not complete, the pearl necklace is not complete. So literally how we do that. We've just spent a lot of money on our website. We've spent a lot of money launching our latest Kempinski app. We are part of the Global Hotel Alliance, which is a loyalty program that is really built initially and very intrinsically on experiences. And that's how we begin to understand and capture who our guest is. We then have our processes. There is a pre-arrival survey. I mean, we all have them. I hate that term survey, but for want of a better description. And then what we battle with, and we talk about all the time, if we say, would you rather a salty or a sweet snack? Do you prefer champagne? Do you prefer white wine? Well, we'd better deliver that. And you know, this is where those aspects of the journey of this pearl necklace mean so much to a guest. They know what to expect. We've almost told them by asking their preferences prior to arrival what they should expect, and then we have to deliver. So it's constant communication from reservation process, obviously, until this exit interview, if you like, in a terribly discreet way as guests depart.
So based on that, you know, hoteliers tend to focus on the arrival experience.
Right.
And less so on the departure experience.
Yes. Oh, yes.
How and what's your approach to creating a departure experience that's defining?
Well, you know, we have this system where each of our frontline staff, our wonderful, amazing family of people in Kempinski, understand who those remarkable guests are. There's a lot of work in that morning briefing. I know it all sounds very sort of old-fashioned, you might say. They have an app which they carry. I mean, everyone has their phone. We have their photo. They are then recognised. We ask that their preferences are logged, their feedback is logged, again, within the rights and duties of GDPR with the privacy laws that are so very, very prominent now. And then we discuss those. And frankly, we're also very upfront with our guests. You know, we ask them, would you like us to know more about you? Some, absolutely not. And many, they want us to know, and therefore we deliver for them. And I think we find it very interesting as we watch this generational change. We are a 126-year-old company. We have had the grandparents. We've seen now the parents become, you know, equally affluent to their parents, particularly in Germany, Switzerland and Austria, where our brand is very well known. And now the children are coming through, those teenagers, and they're very willing to share. And they're telling us how they expect us to reach them. They like the brand, they like that history of they almost grew up with us, but they want us to talk to them in a very different way. So that's how we capture this, that's how we carefully protect their data, and yet we use that information to ensure that we're meeting their needs and hopefully exceeding them as well.
So how do you deal with the guest that doesn't necessarily want to share, that isn't going to give you necessarily the information that you ask for?
Honestly, it's just simply their preference. We respect it. We ask them to engage and interact with us only to the level that they are comfortable with. And it will be a fact of luxury life. Therefore, we have to anticipate. And I've heard this used amongst our wonderful speakers over the last couple of days too, that anticipation of needs. Housekeeping, so incredibly important. I think we underestimate the people that are on the floor in the heart of the house, as we refer to it, and they are indeed sometimes the true opening of the door. They're unlocking who this guest is, and the guest is sometimes far more willing and comfortable to chat to them about what they expect than they are the senior management. That's absolutely fine, as long as we have a system where those people that are in the heart of the house also feel comfortable to share that experience with the guest, and that's what we're fostering.
You must have a sense of what you want the ideal guest to say when they depart from a Kempinski property, whether they're saying it simply to their friends, their family. What do you want them to say?
We really talk a lot about the guest feeling as if they have experienced the destination and the location. And we also want them to go away and say, we feel we were hosted. We weren't a number, we weren't a guest, there was none of this automatic check-in and check-out. Not to say that doesn't have its place, it most certainly does. However, at the end of the day, that guest that we feel is a Kempinski guest wants to talk about wine, wants to talk about gastronomy, wants to talk about the experiences and the things that are happening in the local market in that destination they've chosen to travel to. And I think they see it as a little bit of they like to go around the different locations, almost a badge of honour that you have tried so many different Kempinski locations. I think there are a few brands, some of them were raised this morning, where we're so very fortunate. Guests feel very loyal to us, and that journey, literal journey, is very important to them. So, we want them to go away and say, we felt that the promises of being very craftsman-like in the way that we look after our guests, and that we felt very valued. That's what we want them to talk about, and they can't wait to return to a different location, or indeed, of course, return to the same.
One of the things that is very clear about Kempinski, each of your properties are iconic and really representative of the location they're in, creating a sense of place. Is that intentional?
I think initially it was. I'm glad I'm not being videoed, because I'm very happy to tell too much, but I think that all hotel brands have had to be a little bit opportunistic as time has rolled on. I mean, a portfolio of 80 properties cannot be completely consistent. And I would really challenge any hotelier that would say, oh, well, every single Four Seasons is exactly the same level and standard and quality, equally so for Kempinski. But that being said, we have a common thread of entrepreneurism, of that gastronomy, of knowledge and experience, and the quality has to be there. But quality can be about the delivery, the service delivery. It might be less so about the actual hardware, about the marble, about the last refurbishment. And if I may, I hark back to earlier on in my career. Many of you loved Starwood, which of course, embodied the Sheraton brand. I'll never forget that the number one property with highest quality in all of the Middle East back in the day, I'm talking many years ago, was the oldest Sheraton in the portfolio. And the way that a guest was rating this quality was all about their sense of belonging and the way that the staff looked after them. It really had nothing to do with the walls and the ceiling and the carpet. So I'm certainly not saying we don't have beautiful luxury hotels around the world at a consistent level, but we are very proud of the fact that even those that might require a little more attention are able to be top quality and really compete with the best in the comp set. And now I would be geographically referring probably more to our China properties, because we are 30 years in China, and you know, we were really pioneers in Beijing and even Shanghai in the early days. And those secondary and third tier cities, they simply don't require an Adlon Kempinski Berlin or a Munich Wehrheitszeiten. It's a different expectation, a different requirement. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does, but
Yes.
it actually brings up another question, which is, when you talked about Sheraton, it actually reminds me of the old Chiga brand.
Yes.
With tremendous individuality.
Yes.
And creating individuality today is very difficult.
Yes.
As you look to the future of Kempinski, how do you maintain the uniqueness and individuality as you develop future properties?
Well, thank you for asking, because it leads me into saying what we have the joy of enjoying, which is this allowance, let's say. We allow our general managers to be individuals. We have some incredible characters, I can assure you. If anyone knows Ralph Radke of the Shiran Palace Kempinski in Istanbul, oh my goodness, I mean, he's a comedian, he's the Sultan of Istanbul, everybody knows him, he's terribly cheeky and quite frankly rather inappropriate at times, but my God, he runs the palace in the most incredible way, and he jokes, there's only one Sultan that's lived in the Shiran Palace longer than me, you know, because he lives in the property. So I think not stifling that incredible character, to almost hire and allow that to be. Now, the flip side of that, of course, for Kempinski and for people like me, is where does that sit with compliance and consistency? We are not good at compliance and consistency, but you know, we say, but that is the individualization of a brand such as Kempinski. So you will experience the best of Istanbul when you're there, the best of Munich, Vienna, and indeed, I must also reference our incredible properties in Bangkok. We have two. Everyone will talk Peninsula, everyone will talk Mandarin Oriental, and I really am not making this up. In any comp set that you could imagine in Bangkok, our Siam Kempinski Bangkok is the #1 performing property. It's beautiful. It's amongst the malls. It has an amazing spa. And then the sister, Sindhorn Kempinski, which is in the Sindhorn district, obviously, but with beautiful greenery around. I mean, it's now sort of giving Siam a little run for its money. So, you know, I think it's so much about allowing the general manager to run his show. It is about the standards and the expectations and KPIs being extremely clear, but not stifling the entrepreneurship of that Kempinski general manager, that host.
In an era that could best be described as cultural globalism, do you see a difference between Asian American and European luxury?
Oh, yes.
And what Asian American and European luxury travelers seek?
Yes. I must say, I've been amazed at times, and I want to say there's absolutely no judgment or criticism, it's just observation. We can all learn so much from each other. But, you know, the American luxury guest is absolutely willing to spend $1,300, $1,500 a night on a property, and you know, I have experienced them. And maybe there's someone to open the car door as you arrive. Maybe there's somebody to carry the bags to the room. You know, potentially you line up to get into the breakfast restaurant because things are so great and the lines are so, you know, I mean, the breakfast restaurant is full. And please don't think we don't have those experiences in Europe and Bangkok and the Apurva Kempinski Bali at times. However, for $500 equivalent a night, you will stay at the #1 property in every major city in Germany, in Austria, well, maybe not Switzerland, let's not exaggerate. But, you know, my point is, you know, the rates that you guys can see in New York and, I mean, even Atlanta and, you know, I mean, other places far surpasses what we're able to get in our cities. And what amazes me is that expectation, because the American guest, not just the American guest, but it's American audience predominantly, the American guest has an extremely high expectation of our European portfolio as I compare it to twice the price of what is or is not being delivered in the US. So I think the guest has a different level of expectation. Hoteliers do also. I mean, I personally agree with this large size pump action in a $1,000 room a night. I mean, this to me then morphs into the sustainability, and we're still playing around with these tiny sizes, and let's face it, you don't wear glasses in the shower, so how often have us ladies all used the wrong amenity in the shower? But yes, I think we all learn from each other, but to me what is remarkable is that level of expectation doesn't necessarily track the rate. And sorry, I hope I'm not going on too much for you,
please.
Matthew, but let me also say that it's remarkable to me that we don't have more global opportunities to share these experiences. I love HSMAI as a what do you call it, a body, I suppose, but I've been saying to them, we have a chapter for Middle East Africa, we have a chapter for Europe, we have a chapter for America. They all talk, but how about you get us all together and then we should talk, because we can all learn from each other and there is a lot to learn and a lot to cross-reference.
Agreed. We're seeing luxury spending decreasing, ADRs increasing, staffing challenges, amenities being constrained. Are you seeing, or do you feel that there is a value deficit in luxury hospitality today? And if so, how is that addressed?
Well, honestly, it's so different outside of our portfolio being all excluding America. It's very different. We don't have, in most places, perhaps Tel Aviv before the situation was an example of where it's incredibly high occupancies, immediately inflated average rates. I mean, we opened this amazing property in Tel Aviv, and unlike other destinations, it just flew off the shelf, $935 average rate immediately, people lining up for more availability and inventory. So that's a little bit unusual. But when you talk about the rest of our portfolio, our average occupancy, generally speaking, would be no higher than 73% occupancy. And our average rates would be, sort of towards the $500 mark. Now, for a luxury company and an operator, this is not very high. I think that, we have to be more bullish about where we're heading with this. And I think that, we have to really push it a lot harder.
So when if you look at one of the core pillars of Kempinski, is it delivering a value that defines an experience that transcends cost? Namely, when a guest leaves, they would say, I would have paid more.
Yes, and look, I think what I should have also said to you is we've not experienced for longer than probably a 6-week period this terrible situation globally where we can't find people. Yes, we had it at a certain time. Yes, we had shortened bar hours and restaurant hours, which was referenced yesterday. But it wasn't, it still doesn't remain a consistent concern for us. We just don't have exactly the same concerns. Yes, costs are increasing. I mean, oil costs, food supply costs, all sorts of supply costs. Yes, but because we've got more room to move with our average rates, I think we're able to cover it a little more. And I think staffing payroll costs on the whole are a somewhat high percentage. I mean, of course, it differs throughout the world, somewhere between, we're very low costs in a part of the world starting with C, ending in A, just off the coast of America that I'm not allowed to mention. Very low percentage there, but then it goes from 35 up to 50%, depending where you are. I think US somehow sits in between there, depending where it is. So yeah, it's evolving all the time, and we have to stay ahead of it, and we have to increase our prices because costs remain. However, it's just simply not as high, and we don't have all of the same challenges that you have here.
So, staying on the subject of staffing, Ron, Raul, James talked about the core of luxury hospitality being the staff, people. How do you engage, inspire your team at Kempinski to deliver memorable moments every aspect of the guest journey?
Yes, well, we're so very fortunate. We have amazing relationships with the Swiss schools. And they're all really come out of there, these wonderful people who truly believe it's a calling, it's truly their career, it's not a side job. So we look for those young people that are graduating. We have an enormous internship. Germany is known for its very strong apprenticeship program, where a lot of people, they come out of school at 15, they go into hotels, and they really, really feel as if they belong to the industry, and we try to hold on to those people. Particularly in the culinary side of Kempinski hotels, we're not afraid to send our global citizens all around the world. We believe language skills, so very exciting. Everybody speaks English. I have to say, I think I'm just about the only person in Kempinski that only speaks English. I'm not proud of that, but I joke with anybody who will listen to me. I speak hotel very well, so that seems to get me through, But in all seriousness, it is about working with those hotel schools. It is about our training program. 1% of all revenue in Kempinski is dedicated to training. And this is extremely important to us. It can be within the company, it can be on the job, it can be external trainers. And we have a terribly robust program. And then lastly, I also want to say this, not many people know about it, it's certainly not a sales pitch, but this Global Hotel Alliance, which is our loyalty platform, 1,100 odd hotels, 45 different brands. We also are not afraid to work with them to perhaps a little bit learn their techniques, understand their training, they understand our training. We swap and share staff, and that was a wonderful thing through that period of COVID. And indeed, when we have our ski resorts that close off-season, and some of the other Croatia properties, for instance, likes to shut over a certain period, we move those staff around. This engenders a belief in Kempinski and a love and a passion for the industry, and I think that's how we're doing it.
At a time where technology has become ubiquitous and AI is now becoming a panacea,
right?
How do you approach ensuring, and I think the phrase that you use is human touch.
Yes.
How do you ensure that human touch, high touch, is ensured by technology, not transcended by it?
Yes. Well, firstly, I think, I would never claim Kempinski is cutting edge or first mover. We're not that. But I think you'll find it interesting that we, the leadership on the board, made a very interesting decision. We had our number 2 in commercial, who was very IT savvy, very distribution savvy, and quite globally well known, Rico Van Santen, for those that are in the more digital space. And we moved Rico from commercial into being Chief Information and Technology Officer of the company. Okay, scratch the head moment. Why would we do that? We knew that if we had that commercial understanding from his history in revenue management, distribution, digital prowess, and we brought him to where he could make far more decisions about the IT solutions that we should contract and the money that we should invest in IT, AI being a part of that story, we felt this might be a winning combo. So that's where we're headed with it. We, the board, talk about it all the time. We're not using ChatGPT, for instance. I mean, we don't ban our hotels, but we've not made yet a significant decision around whether we believe in it or not. Of course, it's coming. I mean, you can't ignore it. And I think at the end of the day, using the data, using the touch points, using that knowledge of the guest, which of course you have to capture in some sense through the technology, of course, but never losing sight of the relationships. And I know we're out of time, but I want to leave you with one thing I said recently. And no offense to anybody, you can tell I'm joking, but if one more digital person comes and says to me, I want to talk to you about my app and my this and my that and the other, and I just want someone to come up and say to me, I want to talk to you. I want to meet you. I tell you what, you'll get a hell of a lot more time with me than you will if you want to talk to me and say it's about an app and it's about an application. Of course it'll eventually be about that, but let's just talk as people first.
And isn't that the heart of luxury?
I love it.
Amanda,
Yes.
thank you so much for joining
Thank you,
ILHA
Mathew,
in this
very much.
conversation.
Thank you.